And just like that, we are back, ladies and gents, with another episode of the Weekly Beat. My name is Dumi Jerry, coming to you from Johannesburg in South Africa. And with me, my sister Maggie Omotesi from Dakar in Senegal. Maggie, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Dumi. How are you?
I'm good.
How is
I'm
Johan
good.
and his bag?
It's very cold. Very, very, very
It's
cold.
already winter?
Yeah. It's yeah, so temperatures are like, at least this week, we are hoping to get some, warmish temperatures, but last week, oh, yeah. And it doesn't help that it's that cold and the country is facing huge electricity crisis. And lots of people use electricity for heating, for cooking, for lighting. So, yeah, it's been a mess. And speaking of electricity, on this week's broadcast, we are focusing on South Africa. There's lots that's happening in South Africa currently. If it's not unemployment at 35%, it's electricity, the rolling blackouts as we call them. If it's not that, it's climate change. If it's not that, it's the rand weakening against the US dollar, making imports very expensive. If it's not that, what else? Fuel price going up. And all of this amongst salaries not going up. So the cost of living, cost of existing in South Africa is, getting very, very, very expensive for a lot of folk in this country. So, Maggie, where do we start with this country of ours?
I absolutely have no idea. I just read an article that said the country is losing about $40 million, over $40 million per day from power cuts. But the whole idea, Dumi, is that it's not even just the money lost, it's the businesses that are left out of business. I don't know if that makes sense. For example, I was reading that some days you have to go 9 hours without electricity. So if you are a small business owner, 9 hours you haven't worked, you absolutely, your costs are going up. You have to find ways to really keep the lights on. So you eventually become a generator, business, but also the generator consumes fuel, which is also, pollution. It's just a lot of things to put into context. But on an economy bit of it, I mean, it's just a lot of money bleeding out of the country, bleeding out of it. I don't know how accurate these figures are because I saw them on the Washington Post this morning.
So I actually think those figures are somewhat conservative, if I'm putting it honestly, because there are a number of call it well-known economists in South Africa. One is the chief economist at ABSA, the bank. Barclays no, what are they called now? ABSA. Yeah, ABSA. Barclays left. Yeah.
Dumi, you need to move on faster. We are living in 2022. ABSA, that was even before COVID. Come on.
Right, but anyway, as I was saying,
before COVID, before Ukraine and Russia. I mean, there are so many things that have happened.
Okay, all right. The figure from the Washington Post, puts that at just above $500 million. At today's $500 million rand, right, at today's exchange rate. But economists are actually predicting something in the region of between 2 and 4 billion per day.
What?
Yeah. Because to put it into context, there's different stages to the power cuts, right? So the highest we had lived through so far was stage 4, right? So if they stayed stage 4, then you know, okay, things are really bad. But since last week, things have escalated to stage 6. It doesn't help that there's an illegal strike that the employees at the power utility company are actually engaging in currently, right? So at stage 6, it means it's just a lot more hours, um, sometimes 4 hours at a time. So you can imagine a scenario where power goes off at, say, 4 o'clock a.m. and comes back at, say, 8:30 in the morning, right? So, okay, fine, you can then start your day, all
Mm,
right? But power is going off again at 12 o'clock and it's
mm,
coming back at 4:30. So literally, you probably have only, say, what, 3.5 hours of
mm,
productivity. Even
mm,
your laptop, if it was fully charged at 12 midday when power goes off, it's not going to take you all the way until 4:30. Your internet is affected, all of that, right? We're just talking of people that are working from home or people that are running online businesses and stuff.
mm,
We haven't even started touching on the actual industrialists that need ongoing power to continuously survive and operate their businesses. And then the power will go off again at 8 8 o'clock. Yeah, 8 o'clock p.m. To only come back at 10:30 p.m. So it's not really sustainable.
mm,
And that's where you can really then see how bad the situation is. And it doesn't help that it then just makes things worse and worse for South Africa, which is already sub investment grade credit rating, according to the rating agencies. The deteriorating businesses, the deteriorating
yeah.
consumer confidence levels, all of that impacts the economy hard. When you then factor in all the other global things that are going on, the Ukraine
Mm.
war
Commodity
uh,
price and
and the
gas.
commodity prices and all of that stuff, yeah, life just becomes much, much, much harder for folks in South Africa. But at the same time, um, on this show, we try to find silver linings in things that are going on.
Which, by the way, before you go further,
Before,
because I saw another number on
yeah,
Forbes. This article, I think, came out a day ago, 2 days ago.
yeah,
I think you've heard of Nova Economics. They
yeah, yeah,
estimated that, the power cuts just last week
yeah.
cost the South African economy $750 million just last week.
Wow,
But that's also less. If you
possibly.
for example said you lose $40 million a day, you're just going to have to multiply that by probably 5 to 7 days to see how much you've lost in a week. But again, like you said, this also increases the risk of downgrading, the country's,
Investment rating, yeah.
investment rating to, to something. I don't know. I don't even know what it's going to look like in the next couple of months.
Junk, I can
Yeah,
tell you.
yeah, but it's a lot at risk, and I don't know. I guess when we were speaking earlier, I said to you, "What does the president think about it?" And the whole situation is that you have a problem for the past couple of years, but isn't it also a chance really to rethink, reimagine, and innovate, and probably find ways to light up the country through solar and renewable energies?
Mm. So, I think to his defense, these problems didn't start yesterday. They started probably with the maybe not even the previous president, but probably the one before that. I would think this problem started under the President Thabo Mbeki's regime, right? And they were not addressed in time. And then a
Mm,
new president came in, President Zuma. Things again were not quite addressed. And
yeah.
then we're now in this case. So the turnaround is
Mm,
something that's not going to take 1 year or 2 years, or
mm,
it's going to take a long time, right?
mm,
To their credit, though, they are trying to open up and free up the space for
mm,
independent power producers, right? So, but where I fault them is where the policy doesn't move as fast. The
mm,
market doesn't open up as fast as it should because it's out. I feel like it's a simple thing if you really open up that market and allow people to really generate their own independent. power and supply to the grid. That's where I feel like they're not really moving with so much urgency, because that's the fastest way to sort
Mm,
of plug this hole that keeps on growing and growing and growing. So, but even in saying so, I think that's where people must continually keep their eyes and ears to the ground to say what's happening, what's next, what is the
mm,
policy now, what is the way forward now,
mm,
because therein lies the investment opportunities, particularly from a solar generation
mm,
perspective, clean energy. In any case, we are
mm.
trying to go green with everything that we're doing, right?
Absolutely.
Um, so yes, legislation is there. It's not changing as fast as it should to accommodate a lot of independent players, because all you just need to do is open up that market, like blow it up open, and you will find lots of players from lots of places. But then the question then becomes, okay, once I produce my power as an independent person and then supply it to the grid, will the country be able to pay me, since it's below investment grade and consumer levels are not there, and things are already difficult in the country? Will I get my money from from this government? And it
Mm.
doesn't help anyway that the government has been embroiled in so much corruption. So
But they need like which makes a lot of sense. I mean, if I'm an investor watching and listening to this, that's the question I want to ask myself. Like, is it worth really putting my money and all of it into creating power in South Africa? Like, am I gonna get paid? Obviously, but it's a different kind of investment ball do me, where we need PPPs, we need
yes,
we
yes.
need the government to partner with private companies. You absolutely cannot expect something like this to be solved by a government that is known to be corrupt, by a government that has actually failed to address this a couple of years before. I mean, there is a chance for investors who really want to put in the money, and sometimes even as the investment downgrade your cars. I mean, these are opportunities for people to come into countries and set up.
Mm.
You know that as investors, they really love to bet on risky markets because
Yeah,
that's where
well,
the real
high
money.
risk, high return, right?
Obviously, so this is like a chance. I guess for me
Yeah.
now, the question is, what would you tell me as an investor who is listening or watching this? And I've probably heard of South African problems, but I really can solve this. I mean, there's gonna be something for us.
Mm. So I'll say, I mean, obviously, this is call it a very serious and negative situation that has got grave impacts on the economy. There's
Mm,
lots of billions of dollars that have been wiped off the gross domestic product, the GDP of the country thus far. And if things are not dealt with decisively this week, then we can expect, more money to be bled out from the GDP of the country, right? So even in the face of that, though, um, like I mentioned earlier on, that you know, government has been, people have been, I mean, business societies, I mean, and banks and private sector players have been urging the government to remove barriers to private sector intervention in the generation of energy and power. And you can never go wrong in the generation of energy and power. Okay. And it's only recently that government has started to heed or think of these considerations. And that's a good thing. So if you're an investor sitting out there, I would say yes, the country may look less attractive currently, but show me one African country that is attractive anyway. Um, yeah, Rwanda. um,
yeah.
yeah, so it's government, like I mentioned, has started. listening to these considerations, and they have started opening up the space and inviting key players in the independent power production game to say, there are considerations. This is the limit. Maybe it's 20 megawatts or 30 or 100 or whatever it is. So keeping ear in the ground, you can never go wrong with independent power production. There are so many companies that you can then talk to directly. Think of the mining companies, think of the agricultural firms, think of like so many big companies that you can then have a deal directly with. So you don't have to necessarily feed into the national grid. Just have a deal with a mining company and say, okay, I'm going to add on 20 megawatts to your production capacity. And then that's it. That way you hedge against the risks that come with dealing with a government that may not, well, that is very less attractive currently based on what's going on. That's what I would say.
I guess it's a lot to look forward to. Obviously, we always have very few minutes to discuss this.
Of course.
What I've read is also that this is going to go on for quite some time. It's here to stay for.
Yeah.
So we don't expect as much to change, but my hope is that small businesses actually survive. I hope we don't take years back. We don't take steps back that take us many years, back and cost much more money. There's already that is at risk in terms of employment, in terms of jobs. But I hope this, comes to they find a solution. Like you said, engage the private players. For me, I think that's it. Engage the private players.
I agree. Anyway, Maggie, we could speak about these issues the whole day, but I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it here. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Truly appreciate. And in case you missed on any news happening around the continent, please visit our website, mansamedia.africa, for anything that you might have missed. And also subscribe to our newsletter. Comes out every Friday, called The Third Opinion. From me, Jimmy Jere in South Africa, from Maggie Omotesi in Dakar, Senegal. And since we're speaking of load shedding, it's lights out from us.
We need to sign out before the power goes off.
Exactly.
Thanks, Dumi. And here's to peace, profits, and having lights on.
Of course. All right.